Welcome everyone to Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm the Raw Dog, and this is what we do here at Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm going to review a game I recently played. But here's the catch. There's no script and no editing. I'm just going to ramble on my review for the game, off the top of my head, off the cuff if you will. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to it, and let's go in Raw Dog.
Okay, this time we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. And as a combo, we're talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, right before the remake of the Part 2 Rebirth comes out, because I want to talk about this. Okay, so let's start off with some talking. I love Final Fantasy VII. It is my favorite game of all time, and not only that, it's the game that probably shaped my entire life. I can't say that with enough power. It definitely shaped my entire life. I have based a lot of my thinking on how things work in Final Fantasy VII. Like the ideals of the planet, how environment friendly, saving the environment, trying to lessen pollution, all those things, and the kind of like pollution thoughtful person I am, trying to keep all these things in my mind. Yeah, and the way that corporations work and how corrupt they can be and things like that. Yeah, 7 shaped a lot of my mind and how my personality functions. 7 is very important to me. It was also my first Final Fantasy. I had never played any JRPG before playing Final Fantasy VII, or at least that I was aware of. I think I might have played Star Ocean 1 on the Sega Genesis when it first released, or maybe it was a Phantasy Star at that point. But anyway, yeah, I think I might have played one JRPG before that, but I didn't really know what it was, and I gave up pretty quickly because I was much more into platformers at that point, and I was way too young to really understand what was going on, so I gave up. And then now I had a PlayStation, and my brother, his friend, had Final Fantasy VII, and it had just come out, and he was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I'll let you borrow this." So I borrowed 7 from him, and that was that. I was 8 years old, and I was probably too young to be playing that game. I know I was too young to play that game. It was rated T for teen, and yeah, I was playing Final Fantasy VII, and it influenced my entire life. So anyway, to continue this, yes, I think it's the greatest game of all time. I think it's the greatest Final Fantasy game, and I love it to death. So I'm a definite big Final Fantasy fanboy, or I should say Final Fantasy VII fanboy. I obviously played 8. I actually haven't played 6 and before that, although I know that they're good. I know 6 is really good. People love 6. I really need to go back for it, but time in life. But anyway, yes, 7. I played 8. I played 9. I have a really weird relationship with 9. I played 10. I played 11. I did not like 11. I played 12, and I did not play 13 because I didn't like 12, so it kind of put me off for the series for a while until I came back to play to try playing 15, and it still didn't really work for me. And the remake of 7 came out, and obviously I jumped back on for that. Love it. And then I played 16 recently. 16 was really good. I'll be doing a review on 16 at some point when the DLC finishes coming out and I finish the DLC, because I don't like to do a review until I finish playing the game fully, and the DLC counts in my opinion. Anyway, so to get back, yes, Crisis Core Reunion. Now, I played the Crisis Core original on PSP, but I have trouble finishing games on portable systems, except nowadays, because I don't really jump around on portables as much as I used to when I was younger. I usually play more of my stationary systems, and at that point, I don't play as much as my portables. Anyway, the point of the matter is, I did not finish Crisis Core originally, although I knew what happened in the story, obviously, because I know the story of 7 by the back of my hand, and it's good. I enjoyed it, but I also hated Crisis Core for one purpose entirely. I hate the slot machine. I can't stand it. I think slot machines are ridiculously annoying, and I was very angry and could not stand that the level up system, which I like level ups. You should know that by now if you watch this channel. I like JRPGs. I like leveling up. I like grinding. But the level up system is hidden behind a slot machine, and I hated that. I could not stand that progression was gated behind a slot machine. I would grind for so long and just never see the slot machine pop up in the original Crisis Core. Never popped up. I never got the all sevens. I basically just didn't level. I was like halfway through the game, and I was still around the teen of levels, even if that. I was like in level 13 or 15 because the game you just didn't level up. I could never really level up that well. It got to the point where I was just skirting through levels on the outside of the maps so I would avoid combat, but I could get through the dungeons. It was just annoying and a lot of trouble. So when Reunion came out, I figured, I'll give it another chance, and I've heard they've done some remastering and done things, so let's see what they've done. And lo and behold, the godforsaken roulette the slots was still there for level up, for everything. Honestly, I don't mind if it's there for other things. For the summons, sure. For limit break attacks, sure. Whatever. Just take it off of my goddamn levels. And no, it was still there for everything. But it was ridiculously easier. I don't know what they did. I don't know what they did to maximize XP points or whatever, or to maximize the chances, because I leveled up like a maniac this time. Or maybe I just did better. But either way, I leveled up like a maniac. Throughout the first couple levels, I was already in the 20s. Then quickly, through a couple more missions, I was already in the 30s. And I was barely a quarter of the way through the game. And I was just like, something got changed when they remastered this. I feel like they reworked the numbers. Just the numbers. I mean, I don't feel like they reworked too much. It's a remaster. It's not a remake. So I don't feel like they changed too much, but I definitely feel like they changed the numbers. Like, it doesn't require as much XP to make the system give you an automatic level up instead of just... And also, I think they did that. I think they made it so that when you reach a certain point of XP, it doesn't just increase your chances of a level up. It actually just basically gives it to you. The slots automatically hit sevens, and you just automatically level up. Because I felt like a lot of times that the slots barely even mattered, that I just boing, leveled up. And I was just thinking to myself, this is what it flippin' should be. So anyway, I was so much more happy with playing Crisis Core this time, that I just blew through it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. Crisis Core was a lot of fun. I love Crisis Core. Well, I shouldn't say I love it, but I like it. It's a good game. And since the slot machine was fixed, since the slot machine level up was fixed, I can say I love it. I like how the battle system works. I like how you press the square button to attack and dodging. It works more like an action RPG. It's cool. I like how it works there. So I really enjoyed what Crisis Core did. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, also, like I said, I'm going to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because Rebirth is going to come out very soon. And there are a lot of things I want to talk about with that. Just to give this a time lapse, or a timestamp, basically, the final trailer for Rebirth just dropped the other day, like a day or two ago. And yeah, I already have predictions, and I want to talk about them, and I want to put my predictions out there so they're timestamped. But I had these predictions back from when Final Fantasy VII Remake first dropped, and I finished it. So I want to put these predictions out there before the game comes out, and hoping they're all true. And obviously, from the looks of the last trailer, I think they're probably true. I'm pretty hyped about how true my predictions are looking. So to get back, first, yeah, actually, I don't want to talk about them at the same time, I guess, because they're very different games. So yeah, I'll talk about Crisis Core first. So I was already talking about Crisis Core. So anyway, let's go right into it. Graphics. Crisis Core, the graphics didn't get changed from the remaster to this one. They got remastered. It got up with a new coat of paint. It just got upscaled. So it looks good. It looks basically better than it did when it first came out, obviously, but it doesn't look different. It looks the same. It just got upscaled. The graphics still look impressive, but they don't look, mind-blowingly amazing or anything. But they're impressive. They're nice. I would say that the unimpressive part is the scenery. The scenery looks kind of flat and looks definitely like it still looks like a PSP game. it still has that look, it still has that feel to it, which I mean is to be expected because it's just a remaster. It's not the game wasn't rebuilt. So definitely it looks better than its predecessor, or I guess than when it originally dropped, but it doesn't look amazing by any stretch of the word. It just looks good. It looks like it should look for that day and age of a PSP game that was well made. So it looks good. I like how the characters look. The models look really nice. The cutscenes look beautiful. Those are the parts that look really good. And yeah, the game looks good. I enjoyed that. The gameplay. The gameplay is awesome. I think the gameplay is really good. I like what it does. I like how you can dodge around. I like how you slash the things. I like how you work around with the materia. I like how the game functions. After playing, a lot of other things with a lot of JRPGs and the turn battle system, I love turn battles. I love the idea of getting to strategize all these things. But I also like games like obviously Souls and things like that have a much more active combat system. So with Crisis Core, the combat system is obviously a lot more active, so it's I like it. It's very fun. It's very fun. It's very interesting. It's not anywhere near as technical as a Souls or anything, but it's fun. It's a really good gameplay mechanic. It definitely works well. You get to dodge around the enemies. The game actually functions on the dodging. It doesn't function on numbers. If you dodged out of the way of that attack, you did dodge out of the way. It's not like, oh, I dodged, and the game's like, nah, we still hit you because the number still said we hit you. Which I don't like that. I don't like when RPGs like lie. I don't like that. Where they pretend they have, any like kind of like real time combat, but the game actually functions off numbers. Whereas basically that's what happens with 12. Is why I hate Final Fantasy 12. Basically, I'm like a mile away from the enemy when they attack, but the game's like he attacks you. Number says he hits, and it's like that guy's a mile away from me. And it's like no, he still hits you, but his sword has no way of reaching me. He still hits you because the numbers say he hits you. It just makes the game feel completely stupid and unrealistic. I'd rather just then be stuck in a turn combat system where I can't move, because then at least it would make sense that the game hit me. But anyway, yeah, I like how Crisis Core works. That it does have a bit of numbers in it. It definitely does. But if you dodge in the correct time and you dodge in the correct area, the numbers will not hit you. So it does work on some numbers, but still. The numbers are good. Anyway, to get back, that's the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay is basically just that. The missions are good. The way the mission setup is done. The combat's really nice. I like how the game is mission based. It's nice. I think there are, in my opinion, too many missions, too many side missions, too many ridiculous missions. I mean, I kind of get it, but when there's like over 100, it's kind of just like it just feels tedious to me, in my opinion. But then again, you only have to do as many as you want to. The side missions are completely side missions. If you wanted to be a completionist, you could do all of them. If you wanted to just do one, you could just do one. If you wanted to do none, you could do none. It doesn't matter. So, at least I don't think you're forced to do that many, is what I'm trying to say. So I like that. And the story, well, the story is Final Fantasy VII. If you know the story of Final Fantasy VII, then you know what it is. This is the story of Zack before the game happened, before Seven's original game, and Zack was doing his thing, becoming a soldier first class, and you get to watch as Zack becomes a soldier, and you get to watch how he interacts with Sephiroth, which is really cool. It gives a lot more in-depth look at Sephiroth, before the 7, and kind of redeems him in a lot of ways, because Sephiroth had a lot more that going on than the 7 really shows originally. I mean, we do learn a lot about Sephiroth in 7, but now we get to actually see him interact and see him do things and see how he talks to Zack and see how it really humanizes Sephiroth. Because Sephiroth, when you see him in 7, was like, oh, he was this great swordsman, and then he went mad, and then he killed the town, and now he's trying to take over the world as like this god creature thing. And it doesn't all make that much sense. It's just kind of crazy. But then when you play Crisis Core, yeah, you get to learn a lot more about him and what happened and the struggle he had as a person with his mind, his personality, and it humanizes him a lot more. It's really interesting. So it's really good. I love the story of 7. And you get to see the relationship between Aerith and Zack and find out that, Aerith is definitely for Zack and Tifa is definitely for Cloud because, that's just how the love triangle works, or the love square. It's a love square, I guess. How that whole relationship works. Aerith is definitely more for Zack. She was never technically Cloud's girl. But anyway, to continue, yeah, the story is good. I really enjoyed the story. I love the story for 7. And Crisis Core, obviously, just another part. It's really good. And then you get to see all the parts where he's interacted with Cloud originally and see how Cloud functioned as a basic soldier and all those things. It's really interesting. There's a lot of interesting parts to it. Oh, and just, of course, the epic scene, the scene of all scenes where we get to watch Zack fight Sephiroth. And just they have a really awesome fight. Their swords swinging, and they're just doing their awesome thing. And then Zack gets beat. Because Zack gets beat. And then Cloud picks up Zack's sword, stumbles forward, and just stabs Sephiroth from behind. I love that. I mean, that's just the iconic scene of Final Fantasy VII, where everybody's like, Cloud, kill Sephiroth. And it's like, yeah, he did. Him and his clunky boots snuck up behind Sephiroth and stabbed him in the back. He's such a great, skilled swordsman. Nah, Zack had all the skill. Cloud just lucked out. That's entirely what it is. In the original idea of it, Cloud did not have any skill. He just picked up this giant sword and lucked out. So, but yeah, it's great. So, I mean, there's not much more to talk about with Crisis Core. Crisis Core is it's like a 5-hour long game if you know what you're doing. It's not a very long game. It's a short game. There's not much to it. There's a lot of missions. If you wanted to complete them all, it would take you a long time. There's a lot of things you can do, but the base of the game, the meat of the game, is small. Which, I mean, for a PSP game, it's what it's supposed to be. It was not meant to be very long. And also, it did its job. It told the story of Zack. So, it was interesting. It was good. And now, I want to talk about the remake. So, let's jump into remake. Obviously, graphics. The graphics are mind-blowing. To be a fanboy of Final Fantasy VII, the game that I hold in the highest regard, and to see it now brought up to this beautifulness on PS5, well, PS4 then, but PS4 and PS5, it just looks so good. The characters, the models, the hair, everything, the scenery, everything just looks so good, so clean, so beautiful. I could just gush on this game for hours on end and just talk about how beautiful it looks and how it made me feel so happy that I get to see my favorite characters of all time now looking beautiful in these beautiful graphics. The game is amazing. And obviously gameplay, I think the gameplay for 7 Remake is amazing. I think it's exactly what the turn battle system should evolve into. I think this is the evolution that Final Fantasy was looking for. When they made it into 15, when they made it into 13, I think this is the evolution they wanted. I'm really sad that 16 went a whole different direction, like a Devil May Cry game. But, I mean, I still like it. 16 was a good game. I'll get to that eventually in a review. But, anyway, I definitely think the 7 system is better, and I love the combat system. Obviously, if you're playing on normal mode or easy mode, the game is just easy. You just mash the square button, and you just bum rush through it. You blunt force the whole game. It's easy. But if you go on to hard mode, that is where, and actually try to platinum the game, which I did platinum the game, that is where the game actually builds complexity and where you actually have to take control of a lot of different characters and do a lot of different things with that battle system to actually make the game function the way you want it to function. And that is awesome. That's what it should be. The game should be easy to understand if you want to breeze through it, but the system should be complex when you need it to be complex. Because going through hard mode and going through those DLC fights with Intergrade and those final boss fights, the Bahamut fight, the I forget what that guy's name was, but that guy from Cerberus, Cerberus is a terrible game. Anyway, from Cerberus and Intergrade, those final secret boss fights, doing that on hard mode and all that stuff, oh man. Oh my god, it's just difficult. If you're trying to do that, you need to understand all of the complexity of that system and shift your party members around, do combos, take control when necessary, do different controls, do different actions with your materia, all the different things you need to do to actually make the game run smoothly and fight that fight, it's incredible. How much switching you actually need to do between characters. It's like you are playing in turn combat. Like, you're not, but it feels like you are because of how much you're switching between characters, how much you're actually actually keeping track of the ATB meters. It really feels like you are still playing in turn-based combat, but the turn-based is also flowing while you're playing. Like, it feels really good. It feels like I said, the natural evolution of the turn-based system. It feels like this is where the game wanted to get to, where Final Fantasy wanted to get to. But then again, they went to a different direction with 16. But anyway, I think the gameplay for 7 is awesome. And I also think that, the way the world map, or I guess the Midgar map, functions is great. I think the way that works is nice. I do think it's kind of weird in some areas of how the Chocobo works and all things like that. That you can only summon Chocobo in certain areas and only ride it in certain areas. Otherwise, you can use like a carriage to fast travel around. I feel like that sometimes feels kind of weird, but then it also makes it work correctly too because, it's a small map of Midgar. Midgar is, one giant city. It's not the world, so you're not really taking plane travel or anything anywhere. You're barely using trains as it is, so the travel carriage makes sense. The one thing I didn't like was I wasn't a terribly big fan of how the game is structured into like chapters, and how you don't really get to roam the map of Midgar freely by itself. You have to just run around the chapters, and if you miss something in chapter, you have to like go chapter select and go back to that chapter, and it's like you're going back and forward in time all the time. Like, if you want to plan the game, sometimes you have to jump around chapters, and yeah, it feels kind of weird jumping around time like that because you're not jumping around areas, you're jumping around time in the game, and it feels kind of weird. But it still works. It still does what it's supposed to do. And I get why, because Midgar is big and they wanted to make it big. And they couldn't really just make it open the entire time of the game. They had to make it sections for each part of the game. So I get that. I get why it works like that. I still think it works really well for what it does. And it does the job it needed to do. So I think it worked really well. I think it worked. I won't say it worked really well. I think it worked. Because I would have really liked a open Midgar map where we could just travel all of Midgar pretty much all the time we wanted to, and it was just more open to us as a whole. But whatever, it's what it is. The game was still really good. For Intergrade, I want to say quickly, I love the mini games. I love that the whole what was it called? The whole little RTS strategy game. I forgot what it's called. The what was it called? Oh my god, I'm mad at myself. I don't waste too much time thinking about it. The bird, the crow, basically the big bird, the RTS game you play in the original game, in that little fortress where you have to protect the phoenix, but they don't call it a phoenix then. But anyway, yeah, that game. I like that RTS game. It's one of the only RTSs I actually enjoy. But anyway, I love that game. I love that it's a mini game now in this. I love that it's a game that you play with like a whole bunch of people in the Intergrade. I think it's really fun. I had a lot of fun with that. I collected all of the pieces, and I feel like I wish they had done more with it. I wish there was like more fights you could do and just have fun random fights, and to do a lot of fights with it. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun. But anyway, that's just me because I really like the mini game. But I didn't like how Intergrade was forcing you to do different things and had you have more guest characters. I feel like because that character, I forget his name, the other ninja, was there for a while, he could have just been a character you controlled. I didn't really like the whole idea of 20 guest characters. But I guess it's the thing we're going to keep seeing. We're going to see guest characters in Rebirth, and Red 13 was already a guest character. Although Red 13 makes sense, because he came in for like the last half hour of the game. It makes more sense that he was a guest rather than he was a fully controllable character. Although I would have liked to at least mess with his equipment. That would have been nice because his equipment was interesting, and we had him along for the ride for long enough that it would have been nice to at least adjust his equipment. But anyway, besides that, the gameplay is basically set. To jump into the story, and the story right here in my story area is where I'm going to talk about my prediction for Rebirth. So first thing I'm going to say is, obviously, I love the story of Remake. I think that It's amazing. Now, yes, there was a little bit of subversion where it's not exactly the exact story of Seven retold. I think it's awesome though. I really enjoyed the whole idea that it was like new game plus mode, kind of, where like it makes sense too, where Sephiroth now knows what's going to happen in the future because he's connected to the live stream. So he knows the ending. And Aerith kind of knows the ending. But Aerith wasn't going to change anything. She's already decided on doing the things that she does and living the life she did and saving the planet. This is the best possible ending that she could see. But then Sephiroth's like, nah, this isn't the best possible ending for me, so I'm going to start changing things. I'm going to start messing with the live stream and start changing everything. So now that he started changing everything, the best possible future is no longer that future. So now Aerith is basically forced to make a choice that she didn't want to make and start changing the future and start breaking out of the lines of destiny. And which is why they have this whole wreaths around here and everything. And Sephiroth's popping up out of nowhere, and time is all discombobulated. The game just feels cool. Like all the important events still happen, so it's still Final Fantasy VII, but there's a whole lot of new events for the players, like me, who live and breathe this game, to have a bit of a new experience, but still feel like they're still experiencing the same thing, but get to have a new experience and new things happen. And the possibility of saving Aerith. Possibly the most, iconic death in all of video game history. I said possibly, but I think it is. Where Sephiroth comes down and slays Aerith in front of you. Oh my god. The fact that the game is basically telling us, hey, guess what? You might be able to save her because we're changing history. And it's just like, wait, we can save Aerith? Oh my god, let's save Aerith. I'm all for it. I'm on this hype train. I want to save Aerith. So, I love where the game is going. I am really enjoying. I enjoyed all the changes to the story too, because I had a lot of theories, a lot of interesting ideas for Seven and how the original Seven lore worked out. I always had this theory that when you're captured by Shinra and you're in the cells, and then all of a sudden the place is all bloodied up and everything. I always had a theory that, especially after Advent Children happened, I always had a theory that Cloud being a kind of like a clone, not entirely a clone, but having the Sephiroth genes inside of him and all that stuff, did like the whole I forget his name, the brothers that could basically like turn to Sephiroth. He did that whole thing where he could kind of turn to Sephiroth, and he left the cell and murdered the entire Shinra building, and then left a trail of blood to go back to his cell as Cloud. I always had a theory that could have been what happened in the building, instead of like Sephiroth just randomly appearing or something, that it was actually Cloud that did it. And that kind of happened in the remake, where it wasn't Cloud, but it was a Sephiroth clone that did basically turn into Sephiroth and did massacre the whole building and did all these things as Sephiroth. And so I was like, man, my old theory kind of came true, kind of happened. And I was like, that's really cool. So I really enjoyed all the changes that Remake did, and all the changes that Remake brought to the table, where this is the game but it's not 100% the way it was. It's because Sephiroth knows the ending and he wants to change the ending for himself. And like, I feel like all the things it did made sense for the game it had to be. Especially when you come to like the crazy fight with Sephiroth at the end. Some people were thinking like, well, why fight Sephiroth like that now? It's game one. It's only Midgar, which a lot of people were angry about. I'll talk about that in a second. And but it makes sense because all the fans of the series, we want to fight Sephiroth. We don't want to wait 3 games to fight Sephiroth. We want this. So they had to put a fight with Sephiroth in the game somehow. So it really functioned well. I think the changes worked. The whole rewriting Destiny thing worked. I liked how the wraiths worked and all that stuff. I liked what the game changed. I like how things were still kept in the game. I like how things were changed. I liked how things worked. I liked seeing how Cloud did the whole cross-dressing scene now in awesome graphics and doing a whole dancing routine. I liked that. I thought it was really funny and really interesting. I loved everything Remake did. It still felt like the same game to me. It still felt like the 7 that I grew up with, that I loved to death. But it also felt like it brought something new to the table, but not so many new things that it destroyed the idea of what the game was. That destroyed my memory of it. dare I say it improved on it. Well, not I should say improved on it. It used it as a jumping board to spring off into the next thing and do something different while still doing the same thing. And that's why I feel like Remake is just amazing, and I love where the story is going. So I really like what Remake is doing. I love what all the things are happening, and how they they put in the stances, the poses for when you finish a combat. They put that in the arena instead. They put the battle ending song for if you have Barrett in your team, he can sing it a little bit in the background when you win a fight just for himself. I love that. I love all the little nods to the original game. I loved what was going on. I can't say it enough. I can just gush for hours about how much I love Remake. So I'm gonna stop myself there and go to my prediction. So back when the Remake finished, the first time I beat it and the game finished up, before Intergrade even came out, I saw that cutscene with Zack, and I was like, wait a second, Zack is alive. And I was like, nah, wait, really? Is he really alive? And people online started to jump on me like, oh, it's an alternate reality. We're gonna see Zack do things, but he's not gonna be with the group. And I was like, nah, that's not it. He's alive. He's gonna be with the group. He's gonna follow the group. I was predicting from that moment that Zack was gonna go into Midgar, find out that Cloud was already gone, and just be like, oh, I gotta go catch up with Cloud. And that you're just going to go through the next game, which is Rebirth now. Going to go through all of Rebirth. We're going to get to that scene with Aerith, about to get stabbed by Sephiroth, and they're going to be like, oh no, what's going to happen? Cloud's going to be frozen in his moment because Sephiroth has slight control over him again. And then all of a sudden, Zack's gonna run up the stairs and just jump off of Cloud's shoulder, grabbing the Buster Sword off his back, and just slam into Sephiroth with his sword. He was like, no, I'm saving her life, not this time, and blast Sephiroth back. And then Cloud snaps out of it, and Zack throws Cloud the Buster Sword, and Zack takes out his Soldier Sword, and they just go have a double fight on Sephiroth, and a beautiful climactic cinematic fight of awesomeness. That was my prediction day one, and I was just like, if that happens, it's going to blow my mind. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be beautiful. And as we get closer and closer to this game releasing and all the trailers, it is looking like that is going to happen. We have already confirmed that Zack is in their timeline. I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, but the trailers are basically confirming it. That Zack is in their timeline. He will be with the group. Maybe not 100% with the group, but he will be with the group. He will join up with them at some point, and he will, as we saw in the most recent trailer, be basically holding Aerith in his arms as she's dying, which I think is crazy. I'm going to take a drink. But I think that my prediction could still come true. I think that there's going to be that big climactic fight, and it's going to be beautiful. And I think that's going to be awesome. But to go along with that fight, I think it's going to be... I honestly still think we can save Aerith. I still think we can. I think it might be one of those moments where she might be in a coma or something. I don't know. I still want it to be possible that we save Aerith. That we have a possibility to save Aerith. I don't know what they're going to do. I obviously don't know myself. But my prediction still stands that we're going to get to that moment. And, Zack's going to come up and we're going to have a crazy fight with Zack and Cloud and Sephiroth, all duking it out. Well, not duking it out. Zack and Cloud team up versus Sephiroth, and it's going to be beautiful. I do think that at some point through the game, I think that is going to be where Zack joins the crew. And Zack's going to be playable throughout the third game as part of the crew. I feel like the third game is going to focus more on Cloud's whole reassembly of his memories and all those things. And I feel like at that point, it's going to be us controlling Zack instead of controlling Tifa to go back through Cloud's memories and to fix everything. Or it's not even going to happen. It might just not happen anymore. We'll see what happens. And I feel like Zack is going to be a part of the game where we're going to control Zack for a while. I think Rebirth is going to be I think Rebirth is definitely going to have us controlling Zack for a while. The whole cover screen of the Rebirth that they have on PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Store, where they have Cloud on one side and Zack on the other side, I feel like that's very telling. Part of the game was we play with Cloud. Part of the game was we play with Zack. And that's why Reunion was very important to play with, because we are going to be playing as Zack for part of Rebirth. And we're going to catch up with the crew, and we're going to join up, and we're going to fight Sephiroth together. That is my prediction. My prediction is that, Zack is going to be playing catch up throughout the plot line of Rebirth, and we're going to get to Aerith's death. It's already confirmed that we're basically getting to Aerith's death. That's going to be the final scene in the game, and that's where we're going to have the big fight with Sephiroth for this game. And it's going to be Zack with the group fighting off Sephiroth to save Aerith's life. That's what I think is going to happen. That's my assumption, and that's my prediction, and I'm just going to go with it. So we'll see what happens, because it's only a few days away, and I am really excited for Rebirth. I am so excited. So yeah, I obviously recommend Crisis Core. If you are a Final Fantasy fan like I am, then you definitely should play 7. I say 7 is my favorite. I say 7 is the best, but I also say that no one can really argue that 7 is the most important game in the Final Fantasy franchise. 7 is what put Final Fantasy on the map. And I mean for the entire world. Internationally, 7 put Final Fantasy on the map. Now, yeah, Final Fantasy has good games that are... Well, I'll say some people could say that the games are better than 7. And that there are games that are also good. Like 6 is really good. 10 is really good. 10 is my second favorite. 9 is good. 8 is good. Other games in the Final Fantasy series are good. I'm not saying they aren't. But when you look at how the history of the series, of the franchise functioned... 7 is the most important. It was such a big, monumentous moment. It changed how turn battles worked for a while. It changed how teams worked for a while, because you got a 3-person team instead of a 4-person team. Like, it changed the landscape on JRPGs for a long time. A lot of JRPGs followed suit with what 7 did for a long time after 7. 7 basically decided how JRPGs function for a generation. And just, the game is important. It definitely is the most important Final Fantasy game in the franchise, whether you like it or not. It had the most impact in the West, and it basically put Final Fantasy on the map for being an international franchise. So, yeah, no matter what you say, it basically is the most important game in the series. And that's just as important as in the franchise. Not saying you all have to think it's the best game, but I'm saying it definitely is the most important game. But anyway, yeah. If you're a big fan of Final Fantasy 7, obviously you better be playing this. And yeah, Crisis Core, it's good, definitely awesome, definitely worth playing, especially since the Reunion remaster actually feels a lot better, looks better, and they fixed the level up system so you can actually level up and actually play the game functionally well. So definitely get it, definitely complete your storyline of 7 and own the whole series. And yeah, Remake, if you haven't played it already, you should. It was the best game on PlayStation 4, in my opinion. And Rebirth will definitely be game of the year, at least for me, of this year coming out, 2024. And in my opinion, Remake should have been the game of the year it came out, but it got beat out by some other things, and I don't believe that. But anyway, yeah. Either way, yeah. Crisis Core and Remake, beautiful games. If you are a Final Fantasy fan, if you are a JRPG fan, if you are into any of that, into action RPGs, yeah, play them. They're good games. They're really good games. Really good stories, really good gameplay, just really good games. And like I said, I gush for hours about this whole thing. So I'm just going to stop myself here. This is a long video because I got 2 games to talk about, and we'll come back when Rebirth is all set, because I definitely need to talk about Rebirth. So that's that.
Okay, well, that was my raw review. Thanks for listening, and if you liked it and want to hear more, you can like and subscribe. But I'll be back here regardless whether you like it or not, with more raw dog gaming reviews. See you next time. Bye-bye!